It is March 25th, 2015. Hello and welcome to East Meets West, the show where Rob and I discuss contemporary Canadiana from our adopted homes in Ottawa and Calgary. Hey, Rob. You still
Episode
hear that
6.
sign?
Yeah, there was for people who were not in the pre-show, which was basically just Nick and I, there was a massive, massive car alarm going off, and it honestly, I described it as sounding like sci-fi, a spaceship in the 50s firing all its weapons at once. It was just making the most, it was like, it was like a normal car alarm, but sarcastic. Like, haha, I know you're trying to start recording, but it is over now, at least from what I can tell.
Thank heavens.
Ugh.
So we've been on a hiatus.
Are we? Future Chat's been on hiatus. This is just par for the course.
I just assumed, that went on with it, but, it feels good to talk.
It does. It feels very good. It's been 7 days since I last did a podcast, and that's far too long.
Oh, man. How do you, do you even talk to people if nobody's going to record it?
I do, but it feels like it's not worth nearly as much.
Oh, okay.
If people know what's happening and what I'm talking about, it makes me feel better.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. So what's new with you?
Uh, Finished our eddy current course. We are doing our CETO course. That is the course to become a certified exposure device operator,
Okay.
which basically means you have a gamma source, a gamma emitter, usually iridium 192 or cobalt 60. You crank it out, you blast something, and then you crank it back in. It's a lot of it.
That does, I don't get it. That doesn't seem like enough words to describe a complicated, non-destructive testing thing.
Well, I mean, you expose film.
Okay.
That's like the basis of it. But it's up to radiographic testers to actually develop the film and interpret what they find.
Sure.
Aceto is just the guy that, exposes it to gamma rays.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not particularly complicated, so you don't need to be complicated in describing it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of theory. It's actually a review of a lot of chem stuff, which is great for me. But,
Okay.
yeah,
That's fair.
you've got to have all the safety and theory down because the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission governs that, and they don't mess around, as it turns out. They
That
had
makes sense.
apparently there was a guy who you have to wear three dosimeters at any given time. One that shoots off an alarm if you suddenly get a very high dose. One that you can reset every day to keep track of how much you've gotten that day. And one that you wear for 2 weeks and then send away to Health Canada for them to total up what you've been exposed to and keep a file.
Wow.
And so this guy, there are people that just don't care. And
Um,
so,
okay.
well, they're like, whatever. I don't really care. It's just fine. It's fine. So he wasn't wearing his dosimetry equipment. And the inspectors came up to him and were like, oh, hey, we're here to audit you. Where's your dosimeter? And he's like, oh, it's the craziest thing. I don't have it on me today. It's weird. I must have forgotten. They're like, okay, well, this is your warning. Don't do it again. And he's like, oh, of course not. Yeah, whatever. So the next day, the inspectors come back to the same guy the day after. Didn't have his dosimeter on him. I believe it was, here is your $5,000 fine, and we will see you in court.
Wow. Take it
Yeah,
seriously.
they sure do.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
They want to limit the exposure of the public, but they're also an agency that it's one of those agencies where they have, as John Oliver would describe, a certain regulatory zeal, and they will absolutely try and protect you from your own stupidity.
That's kind of reassuring, actually, if I can be
Yeah,
honest. Yeah.
I like it a lot. I think that's great.
So, I should mention before we get too far into the show that we do have uh, far too many. We have at least one eagle-eyed listener who likes pointing things out that we either got wrong or missed. And this instance I'm going to talk about right now, I did notice. I did know that this happened, but it didn't bother me too much. But did not get away with it. It turns out. So I titled the last episode "Squeezing Money Out of Sand" because I thought it was clever. But the actual thing I said was "squeezing oil out of sand." I just thought oil equals money in this instance.
I was gonna say basically the same thing, but shame on you, Rob.
Hmm.
I hope we can be better in the future.
Just so that listener does not point out, I said eagle-eyed listener. That is not a good thing to say.
It's more like bat-eared because bats
Yeah.
have very sensitive hearing, I think.
Or dog-eared.
Yeah, but dog-eared usually refers to like
I know.
bookmarking.
There's no good answer for this.
Owl-eared. Owls have very sensitive
that
hearing.
that is true. We'll go with owl-eared for now.
There's one owl, their face is actually a reflector dish. I don't know if you're familiar or not.
Is that the snowy owl, barn owl? I feel like
Something like
I
that.
would you'd recognize the face if you saw it.
You would.
Yeah,
Its face looks like a reflector dish.
right. But that, yeah, I like that.
Don't you though? Don't you just?
There's another piece of follow-up here. You have a story you want to tell, but
Yeah, I was going to tell it. I do not remember the context, but I feel like it's a good story.
okay.
So, yeah, I don't know what we were talking about, but it got me thinking about the story out of Sutton, Ontario. And there was just a large kerfuffle when a school tried to ban the displaying of the Confederate flag in its school and parking lot and whatnot. And you're familiar with the Confederate
The,
flag.
the Southern United States Confederates?
Well, they were trying to become the Confederate States of
Yeah,
America.
yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, that's the one they flew. They were the ones that wanted to keep slavery,
Right.
etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that flag was showing up a lot in this school, and the school banned it to much outrage. And when they actually asked the students about it, they're like, "So, why exactly are you upset?" And they're like, "Well, we should have the right to display what we want to, and yada yada yada." And they're like, "I mean, it's a racist symbol. Like, how can you defend that?" And they're like, "What are you talking about? Like, like Confederate States, they were fighting for like highly reductionist, but they were
Yeah,
fighting
yeah,
for
yeah.
slavery." And they're like, "Oh, I thought it was like a rural pride thing."
I mean, in some ways it technically is, but very backwater.
Yeah, yeah. So Sutton, Ontario.
But so they're okay now. They got rid of them.
I I guess. I hope. One would assume.
They're so proud of that flag.
Oh, proud of being rural, Rob.
Yeah, who wouldn't be?
Not like them city slickers. Not like them at all.
No.
Their fancy hair and $45 suits.
I think you're paying too little for your suits.
Well, I mean, I'm not being from a more rural area.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. So should we get to the show?
I think
Is there
this is the show.
no? But is there anything else you need to follow up on from previous weeks?
Um, well, I think in a previous week, and to our first talking point, you mentioned trying to live off of UTC.
Did I mention that? Did I mention I was going to?
I'm pretty sure we talked about it.
Because I know it was right around the time change, either right before or right after. Right after.
Yeah. When we managed to scoop last week tonight, talk about daylight savings time mere hours before they did.
Yeah, we did that.
It was beautiful. I was so
Go
happy.
us. Yeah.
Right?
So that being said, I have been since essentially that episode. I didn't really change my. Well, I mean, obviously, I didn't change my computers to the right time for my time zone when the time changed for daylight savings changed itself. But that the following day, the day after we recorded on Monday, I changed all my phone, my laptop, my work computer, my home computer to Universal Coordinated Time (UTC). UCT? UCT. I think it's abbreviated UTC, but it's definitely Universal Coordinated Time, also known as, for the purposes of this conversation, GMT, Greenwich Mean Time. That's
Yeah.
what it used to be, but they've sort of consolidated it.
I don't know. Abbreviations get weird. You
They
remember
do.
my waist to height ratio post on my blog?
I
The
remember it, but I don't remember the point that you're referring to.
the abbreviation is capital W, capital H, lowercase t, capital R. Waist to height ratio.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, technically that is okay. It's better than this one, but
Waist height to ratio. What is it?
yeah,
Anyway, the point is abbreviations. They get wonky sometimes.
yeah. So what I've been doing is living essentially 4 hours ahead of everybody else, and effectively that makes no difference to my day. Like honestly, it doesn't. I wake up at the same literal time. I go to bed around the same literal time. But I've been noticing that it is a lot easier to wake up. That when my alarm is set for 9:40 a.m. than it is when it is set for 5:40 a.m. Even though I'm going to bed at 10:30 or at 2:30 instead of 10:30. And if you want to say something, go ahead because I got more detail on this.
How much corner gas would you say you've watched in your
I've
day?
never seen it.
Oh, there is an episode where they tackle this issue or something similar, and Hank keeps changing his time zone,
Okay.
and so he shows up late to things. He's like, "But I'm on like Pacific time now," or whatever it is. He wanted to start doing things earlier, so he just changed his time zone so that it
Right.
would be earlier. And he was just terribly strung out, switching from time zone to time zone constantly.
Yeah.
And eventually, he just crossed the international date line, so he was a full 24 hours ahead of everyone. And then he didn't have problems anymore.
Well, he would have been a day early, wouldn't he? Or did he sort of revert back one day eventually?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they talked about that in any subsequent episodes. And now the show's over, so we'll just never know.
We'll never ever know. But so for me, living 4 hours in the future annoys people around me because I'm always like, oh, we were out last night, for instance, and it was approaching 10 o'clock, and I knew I had to get home to get to bed soon, and I would point out, oh, look, it's almost 2, and then our friend of the show, friend of Unwind Media, Amon, would say, he said repeatedly because we see each other almost every day at work, uh, you're the worst because he knows that I'm 4 hours ahead, and he knows that I just say this because I think it's interesting. But it's been very productive for me. I don't know why it is psychologically. Like working, I work now. My hours are 11 to 7 approximately, and but I still get to leave during the day, so it's really nice.
Interesting.
It doesn't affect the like my calendar isn't affected at all by this because the fact that I've changed the system time on all my things means that all the appointments just shift around the way they're supposed to. It
That's great.
honestly, it's fine. The only issue that I have with scheduling things is that if they happen after 8 p.m. local time, I have to refer to them as happening the following day, which means that if I have an evening appointment, like every week we have dodgeball on Mondays, so my 8 p.m. dodgeball game actually happens on Tuesdays instead of 8 p.m. Monday. That's the only thing I've noticed in terms of scheduling and calendaring that I've had
Hmm.
issues with. Because I'm
I
like,
could
oh,
set.
it's
I
not
could
on.
see that being a problem.
Yeah. But other than that, in terms of my productivity, in terms of how I feel, even if I go to bed at like 4 a.m., I still feel okay because I don't have to wake up until almost 10, even though psychologically it makes no difference at all.
Hmm.
been a wonderful experience.
Well, I'm glad.
And since it affects nobody else, I'm gonna just keep doing it.
Just don't go full Hank. I was gonna say, before we jumped into this conversation, I was wondering how it had gone for you because your hair's all long and you seem to have stopped shaving. And
It's coincidence.
okay,
My hair's been the same length. It's been slowly growing, obviously, but I just showered like an hour ago and didn't want to do it all up again.
fair enough.
Yeah, but it's been a wonderful experience. I could
Hmm,
not be happier with how it's gone.
I'm glad.
Yeah. So you wanted, well, actually, I wanted you to talk about hockey a little bit because this is
We're
Canada.
closing in on April,
We
which
are.
is I mean, it is the end of the contemporary Maple Leafs season, except for
Yes, it
that
is.
1 year when we made it. Wasn't that nice?
Uh, yep.
Actually, huge news out of Toronto. Their game against Minnesota, which was I don't even know because apathy. Um, it was their first non-sellout game since they moved to the ACC.
Wow.
Yeah, 16 years. For 16 years, every seat in the house was sold until a couple days ago.
So, did they win that game?
I don't know if you've been paying attention to
So
how
they
the
didn't
Leafs are
they didn't
doing,
win that
but no,
game?
no. They have lost 30 of their last 36 games.
Oh gosh.
We are
Oh,
failing so hard, and we're still not failing harder than the Sabres,
that's
who
amazing.
have just put up legendarily bad numbers. I think they're still in the 40s, like, of points.
How is that even a thing? It makes
I
no sense.
I don't even know.
They're doing. I'm looking at the stats now. They're doing considerably better than the Sabres. They're like 7 games ahead. They both have terrible records, but although the
Wait,
Leafs have won 6 in a row or lost 6 in a row.
they sure have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ah, like. Although one thing that does irritate me about this is that you know the obvious commentator story was, well, now they've finally started hitting the Leafs where it hurts, and now maybe they'll start getting better because they know that people aren't going to show up. And I mean, honestly, how much money do you think the Leafs make from their attendance, as opposed to, I don't know, all the jerseys they sell, all the
Yeah.
shirts, all the hats, all the licensed merchandise?
Well, concessions as well. Like I'm sure it's not something they want to keep happening or keep getting worse, but I don't think it's the end of the world for them. If I couldn't see you, I would ask if you're okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Just the Leafs, it hurts so much. But I think my biggest issue with this is that, like, I'm firmly of the opinion that had they stuck with Burke's plan, they would be better than they are now. I mean, they were still a flawed team, but they would be better than they are now because they fired Burke and just started making the goofiest decisions and signed David Clarkson to what is commonly referred to as the worst contract in the NHL right now.
What does he have?
Uh, is it 6 or 5 more years at 5.25 million? And like people that were coming up from the AHL were tying him for point production. Yeah, it was bad. Like,
Well,
and I mean, every analytics person could tell, or foretold that that would happen, that, he wasn't as good as his results were on paper. And even that, like, in his 130 goal season, he had like 30 goals and 15 assists.
Right.
That's those aren't good numbers. Like,
No.
you're finishing off someone else's scoring chances. But so now I think they've gone heavy on a youth movement. They've pulled in Mark Hunter, who was the GM of the London Knights and is really well known for recognizing and developing young talent, which is something we obviously need in the front office because we've had problems with that historically. They've hired Kyle Dubas, formerly of the Sioux Greyhounds. He oversaw the Sioux Greyhounds turning around from like third last in the OHL to you know, one of the elite teams. And Shanahan, I just think, is also helping to make good decisions. Like, he's just hand on the tiller, keeping the ship going in the right direction.
Right.
And so the thing is, I think that they are actually. It's going to be a painful couple years, absolutely. But I think they're going in absolutely the right direction. And if they finally get to elite status again, there are going to be idiot commentators that point to the loss of their sold out streak as the turning point in the Toronto Maple Leafs history. And I'm going to hate it.
Will they though? Do you think it'll just
And
be one game, or do you think it'll be like just a few games?
and in I have no idea, but like in year 5 or 6 of Future Chat and East Meets West, I'm just going to be so angry. I'm going to be so happy because the Leafs are finally good again, but I'm going to be so angry.
You know what's weird?
Also, sorry, go ahead. What? What's weird?
Um, I'm looking at the. I'm still got the stats open here. The Maple Leafs have scored only two fewer goals than the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah,
Were you aware
I'm
of
not
that?
surprised.
But they have allowed almost 80 more.
And that's why.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not great.
because earlier in the season, like they were just playing the rush game. I mean, they would just get
Yeah.
hemmed into their own zone. And by the grace of Nazem Kadri, Phil Kessel, James Van Riemsdyk, if one of those guys could cherry pick, they were just, 3 strides and they were gone.
Right.
And they could manage to get a short-handed goal or just, a one-timer. But as soon as those opportunities dry up, they can't win games anymore. And lo and behold, they didn't.
Right. Yeah, you say the Leafs have been historically bad, and I know their January literally was historically bad, but they are not. They're fifth worst in the league right now in terms of record.
And that pains me to no end because the top 2 draft picks are going to be just amazing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. The other thing is, like I'm getting close to graduation time,
Yeah.
and it's looking like there are a lot more jobs up in Edmonton than there are here in Calgary. As much as that pains me,
Right.
I might have to move. But I feel like if I went to Edmonton, I would just kind of get it. Like, I know a couple Edmontonians, they're very proud of their city. Like the one guy in our class who's just great, drinks a lot of coffee and wears plaid unironically, and I feel like
That is
that's
you
good.
basically.
But not only that, they are also dealing with a terrible NHL hockey team.
Right.
So I feel like if I have to go there, I'll just be able to slide right in.
That, yeah, these are legendary teams, legendarily good teams that have had dynasties that are just not doing well at all.
Oh yeah, the '80s Oilers under like with Gretzky,
Yeah.
just. And now I'm sitting here just hoping that maybe the Leafs can win the draft lottery. They currently have like a 10% chance of winning the top pick.
Right. And that's is that Am I thinking Connor McDavid? Is that the right name?
That's him.
Yeah,
He's putting up Crosby numbers in the OHL, which is a better league than Crosby's.
yeah.
I mean,
Sweet,
his
sweet.
former league, the
Yeah,
QMJHL,
yeah.
because the NHL is better than the Q.
If you say so.
Yeah, I'm taking that bold stance.
So are you? Is there anything else you want to say on hockey? Because I want to tangentially move away from it.
Or like actually talk about the playoffs.
Well, yeah. Well, how about we'll do this and then we'll come back and we'll talk a bit about the playoffs.
How are the Senators are in the picture? They're
They
edging
are
out the Bruins, aren't they?
they are in the picture. I think yeah they are. They're edging out the Bruins right now based on the fact they've won 7 games in a row.
It's I mean it bothers me, but only because of all the smug Ottawa fans I know.
They people in Ottawa are very smug. I will say that.
Especially about the Senators.
Yeah, they're not a great team overall, but this is a hot streak.
They seem to forget that they almost lost the Senators to bankruptcy
Didn't
because when
well they did once.
they were number one in the league. Yeah, they lost them once in 1917 or something. Or no,
They didn't
the
come back until what
20s.
the 80s or 90s.
It was 93, I think. They
Yeah,
started playing again. And then they almost lost them when they were number one in the league.
yeah,
Like back in the days of the cash line, Alfredson, Spezza, Heatley,
yeah,
like that line. And they couldn't make enough money to break even.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Although now that Alfredson's gone, I have a hard time hating the Senators. They're a plucky little Canadian squad, and I'm kind of hoping for them to succeed. Just not enough that they'll win a cup, and I have to hear about it every time I talk to someone from Ottawa.
but they're not that bad.
Maybe we hang out with a different group of people.
No, I mean the team itself. I Ottawa
Oh
fans
no,
are mostly insufferable. I agree with that.
glad we're in agreement. If we had a bigger audience, I would say prepare for hate tweets.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm going for. As
Okay,
controversial as possible. We'll
sweet.
we'll put in the description for this episode. We'll put the Senators suck just to get up some rage.
Oh man, the Flames. I am absolutely. And what do I want to say? I love the advanced stats movement in hockey
Yeah.
because especially when I was coming into the sport, I didn't really understand what was going on, but people started quantifying things for me, and I was like, oh, well, isn't that interesting? And it was just a good way to know which players to watch.
Right. Yeah.
It's helpful. It's not the be all and end all. I think it's an excellent bellwether, but it's not the whole story.
Sure. But it is very interesting seeing trends that you wouldn't otherwise see in any other
It's
circumstance.
it's good at saying that players like Grabovski and Clark MacArthur are great, and it pains me that Clark MacArthur is now a senator, but like those two players were great, and Carlisle just refused to use them, and they got rid of both MacArthur and Grabovski in favor of Clarkson, who analytics could tell you was not great. And yeah, so successes like that, I'm happy to hear about.
Yeah.
And I've completely forgot where I was going with this train of thought. Oh, Calgary, the Flames. Their underlying numbers are not good.
Oh,
So a lot of people are predicting a fall back to earth, maybe in the next few seasons or so.
yeah.
And man, I've been talking to people about that, and some people are receptive. Some people are like, yeah, but the ride is sweet right now. Boy, did I get someone trash talking me. Just completely unintelligent trash talk. I was like, yeah, but I mean, they're not playing a good possession game. Like, I'm not sure they really have what it takes to win a championship this way. Like, no, the Flames are awesome and the Leafs suck. Well, I'm not debating you. Like, the Leafs are a terrible team right now. Like, they're awful and they've been awful for a long time. But Calgary's not as great as people say they are. No, Calgary's awesome and the Leafs stink. And that's about how that conversation went.
I mean, if that's the extent of your argument, then you're not going to get very far.
Stonewall, it's
Yeah,
a technique.
I guess so. So we we'll talk about this year's playoffs, but I want to talk about this photo that came up on CBC today. Uh,
Oh,
Not today, came out a couple days ago, I guess.
yeah.
Um, and it's tangentially related because it's about hockey and it's about Canada. And so this picture that BCRCMP tweeted of a Mountie playing hockey in this beautiful mountainscape. It looks like the place where that Molson Canadian commercial was shot, the one where they fly the guys out to, they helicopter them out to the ice rink.
Yeah.
I'll obviously put a link to this picture in the notes for the show. But what do you think about this? I really like this. I want to live here.
I I'm just wondering how I could make a career and live in the Rockies. Like, it is just such a gorgeous area. I would want to like keep an apartment in Calgary so I could go and do like big city things, but then just retreat back to my mountain house.
Yeah.
Just oh, it's a gorgeous picture. It's a gorgeous picture because it's a gorgeous area. That ice rink looks like it's just endless entertainment, and
Oh
you've got a
man.
mount to be playing hockey. So
Yeah.
there's that.
It's yeah,
So
beautiful.
I believe the question posted or posited was, is this the most Canadian picture ever?
Yeah.
With the suggestion that maybe you need Bonhomme shotgunning some maple syrup while
Riding a polar bear.
shotgunning a Molson while riding a plaid-wearing polar bear.
Yeah.
That would be a pretty Canadian shot, but like this is a pretty good start.
Even just like as an advertisement for Canada and Canadian tourism, this is this is all you would need for most people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I really like it. There was some, oh, I forget where I was reading. It came up. CGP Grey put up a video today about Scandinavia.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah, and it reminded me of a few days ago when I saw an article about something about quality of life in countries around the world, and I noticed that all the top six or seven were all like above the 49th, above the 50th parallel. Uh,
Yep.
Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, Canada, they were all up in that top area. And I think this exemplifies why. 'Cause on a cold winter's day in the mountains, how can you not enjoy yourself?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was gonna say like places that don't have access to stuff like that would be places like Calgary because cold winter's day in Calgary is not quite so majestic.
No. You need
But
it.
Banff is just
Yeah, it's an
like
hour away.
Canmore is a 45-minute drive.
Yeah. Okay, we can go back to the playoffs now. I just brief Canadian diversion.
That is a great shot.
Yeah. That I might make that something, some kind of picture of mine, cover photo or something.
I was thinking to make a great desktop background.
Yeah,
You'd
I think
need
they were
better
saying that.
resolution, but yeah.
He was saying that's why they took the photo, I believe, for his desktop background, and then people like, "Wow, this is amazing."
Yeah,
That's
that's
plenty
solid.
original. Yeah.
Apparently, there's some companies. I don't know how you get this lucky, but you can get NDT contracts for Lake Louise.
Ooh.
Yeah, you it's like working 3 hours a day, and then the rest of your day is just whatever you want because you're in gorgeous Lake Louise.
Yeah. There's no bad season in Lake Louise, I don't believe.
No, no, there isn't. And the other interesting note there is our teacher right now is doing radiography, so has all these dosimeters on him. Because he's so high up, or you're so high up, and there's much less atmosphere,
Yeah.
you get a much higher dose of radiation than you would. further down.
Is he wearing or dosimeters because of his elevation?
No, no, it's because you're cranking out a gamma source.
Okay, good, 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 good. That's
Yeah.
because I know you do. There was I think it was Veritasium did a video on that in the last month or so about radiation in different doses and
Oh,
talking
I
about
haven't
how
seen
when
that.
like frequent flyers have like more than even than radiation workers, they get
Oh,
more
yeah, it's
radiation.
huge.
Yeah,
But it's naturally occurring,
it
so they
is.
don't have to track it.
Right. I mean, technically, it's if you're in a uranium mine that's naturally occurring, you should still
That's
track it.
I think it's such an odd line to draw because
It is.
it's basically like if humans were involved in like hauling it out of somewhere,
Yeah,
then it has to be regulated. But I mean, I've worn dosimeters before for X-ray work.
yeah. I saw one. I don't think we ever wore them.
Ah.
Ah, oh well. Is there anything? Is there more you want to say on the playoffs? You want to talk about the playoffs this year and how the Leafs are not going to be in it?
Well, that seems a little,
Oh, but I mean they are.
Toronto centric. No, I mean they're not making it. I kind of wish they were worse in the standings right now because I jumped on Tank Nation. Uh,
Right.
I don't know. Do you have who's your horse in this race?
Um, I have an allegiance to a person who has an allegiance to the Habs, and so
Oh
that seems like
no,
that's a good. It's a good horse to be
no,
on this year. It is.
she's not.
Yeah, her dad's from Montreal and goes to games every so
This is
often.
your wife, isn't it? Or
Pre-wife.
soon to be.
Yeah, they're a good team. You can't really fault them for that.
They are an okay team with a great goaltender
Yes, and
and
that's
PK
most of our
Subban.
team. Yeah, in the playoffs, that's all you need is a great goaltender. The Flames from 5 or 10 years ago told us that.
Oh, Gipper.
Yeah, the Bruins from right now and previously told us that.
If we
Goalies
could
from
just
Finland.
if we could just not mention that goaltender, I would be pretty happy.
What happened with that goaltender?
Tuukka Rask.
Yeah,
Do you know how Boston got Tuukka Rask?
did they steal him from the Leafs?
Leafs traded for him.
Traded
They
for him?
or they traded him away for Andrew Raycroft.
Oh no!
Yeah,
That was yeah, that was
it was a bad move.
that's like
Kind of
when
wish analytics had been around earlier.
yeah, they had it reminds me of the trade how Joe Nieuwendyk went to at the time the I believe it was the Minnesota North Stars before they moved to Dallas, or as they moved to Dallas, he was traded for a extremely young Joe McGinley. So Joe Nieuwendyk was just finishing his career, and they traded him to get Joe McGinley, who captained the Flames for a really, really long time to some very excellent seasons.
Oh, Iginla was just amazing.
Yeah. Well, he still is. He's just not with them anymore.
Well, he's not as good as he was, but I mean,
No.
he's also making it his mission to mentor young players, which is just absolutely a great thing to do.
Yeah.
I think he's with Colorado now,
Yeah, he was with the Penguins for a while, but
and then he almost fought Dion Phaneuf, and the refs broke it up, and Canada, the world really is not richer for
no, that would have
having
been
that.
fun.
We were robbed. We were robbed of that experience. Like Toronto Maple Leafs captain fighting his former captain and mentor.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even care who would have won. That would have just been great to watch.
You know what I find interesting? This because of sort of again dating someone who is more into hockey in the playoffs especially. I'm now noticing how bizarre the NHL looks right now. just from a conference standpoint. But
Oh yeah, we're in the Northeast division.
yeah, they now have wild cards and all kinds of complicated stuff. It was so simple before.
Ah, yeah, but Detroit was just in the wrong conference.
Yeah. Well, they were there were a few teams that were in the wrong conference, but
Yeah, you know what we need is two more Western teams,
yeah,
because then you can just have four divisions with eight teams each. Because 7, 7, 8, and 8 is just odd.
it's very odd. Um, I was going to say that the one team that now sticks out for me, and this is sort of an East meets West thing, is the Winnipeg Jets have never seemed they're like the most Eastern team I can think of because Winnipeg is so far east of Calgary where I grew up. I
The
I know
most
that
Eastern and the Western Conference, you mean?
I think of Winnipeg as being very much in Eastern Canada.
No.
No, but that's how I think of it. I may be objectively wrong, but that's how I
Yeah.
feel.
Because you grow up in Calgary, you're like, much past, Saskatchewan, you're basically in the East right there.
Yeah, that's like how you say you're from Northern Ontario.
I've never said I'm from Northern Ontario.
No, I know.
From Eastern Ontario.
Any
Kaya's from Northern Ontario.
anyone who is sort of more than an hour north of Toronto often likes to say I'm from Northern Ontario, and I just
Oh,
find
but
that
those
really
people
funny.
are idiots.
Yeah,
They're not idiots. They have no idea what Northern Ontario actually is. There's this place called North Bay that you can get to by driving like 4 hours north of Toronto, and North Bay calls itself the gateway to the north.
yeah. The furthest south you can get while still being in the north.
It's honestly, if you look at it, it seems about right.
It's maybe halfway up.
There's like a there's like a French river that goes along to the Ottawa River.
Yeah,
It seems about right.
yeah. Ontario is gigantic, and nothing that is by the Great Lakes is north. North Bay is not
Well,
north at all.
Lake Superior.
It's not even that far north. It's like less than halfway up. It's just because it's all wilderness up there.
I was gonna say Thunder Bay. I would count as being in Northern Ontario.
Like Winnipeg is twice as far north as North Bay is, and it's like Winnipeg is the furthest south you can get in Manitoba.
Yeah.
It's not north. It makes no sense. Nothing in
Well,
Canada makes sense to me.
there's also this thing called Hudson's Bay. Juts down pretty far
It
in the
does.
eastern half of the country.
Yeah. Well, especially James Bay down there. I'm looking at a map right now.
Oh, good.
Good old James Bay.
Yeah.
We got
So
off
I
track.
mean, we had actually Kai was talking to someone. It was a few summers ago, and it's like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Northern Ontario." Really, I'm from Northern Ontario too. Oh, where are you from? I'm from Huntsville. It's like, where are you from? I'm from Kirkland Lake. Where? Oh, it's way up there. It's like, wait, but I'm from or he was from north of Huntsville or something like that,
Right.
like Muskoka area.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, so where is that? It's like, well, you know where you're from, yeah? Keep going for about 7 hours, and that's where I'm from. He's like, what's up there? Gold mines, things like
Lakes.
that. Yeah, I think it was the Arrogant Worms have a song, something Ontario, something something. Like we've got rocks and trees and trees and rocks and lakes and trees and rocks.
That does
Or
sound like a
no,
song they would write.
it's rocks and trees and trees and rocks and rocks and trees and trees and rocks and rocks and trees and trees and rocks and water.
I miss those guys. I wonder what they're doing right now.
Well, if you read my blog post on Harper the Pro Roger, they actually one of the guys made a song called Harper the Pro Roger
recently?
Absolutely worth a listen. He performed it at a protest that I went to, the one and only protest on Parliament that I went to.
The protest.
Yeah, it was on. It was when he prorogued Parliament, I think, for like the second time,
Okay.
because he did it several times, I think.
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, it's just I was all full of righteous indignation, and so I went. And that's when I realized that protests on Parliament are usually just everyone has their pet cause,
Yeah.
and they just want a reason to talk.
Yeah, people do that. That's absolutely true.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't like Northern Canada. You don't even know. Canada goes so much further north than even North Bay. It could be called South Bay, and it would be more accurate. Honestly, other than the fact that it's a North Bay of that particular body of water.
What's really interesting is if you that's the Arctic watershed.
Right.
Like Kaya is not far from being in the Arctic watershed.
Hmm.
It's like a 40-minute drive west. You cross a ridge. Um, but yeah, Calgary is the furthest north I've ever lived. Although climactically, it's probably better than my hometown.
Yeah, I would say for sure because you're further from water.
Yeah. Or no, I mean like Belleville is frequently colder. I
Really?
mean, I've been spoiled this winter, absolutely been spoiled, but Chinooks?
Yeah, Chinooks are fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. Like my biggest reason for not wanting to go to Edmonton is like one, you can't see the Rockies, and two, no Chinooks. What's the point of living, honestly? You got no mountains, you got no Chinooks, and your team is the Oilers. Like, how bad must that be?
Yeah, there's literally nothing to look forward to for 8 months out of the year.
And I mean, I say this in jest because I mean I've been to Toronto and I've been to Ottawa, and you ask people from either place which city is better, and boy, do they have things to tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, both have pros, both have cons. They're just different, and I imagine that's what Edmonton is like. Which
Mm,
I'm going to. We're going for a thing. I'll talk about it off air,
I think
but
objectively,
I
Edmonton is
am going.
worse. They have that mall. That's a really nice West Edmonton Mall is really
Can
nice.
we make the title "Objectively Edmonton is Worse"?
Sure, we can do that. I don't think we'd get. I don't know that we have any Edmonton listeners,
Uh,
but I know we have some Calgary listeners. So
we certainly won't get more Edmonton listeners that way.
people hate listen to things. That could be a thing.
Yeah, probably.
We are way off topic from playoffs. Is there anything else you want to say on that?
Oh, no,
You're
not really.
disappointed, but
We can
there's always
we can
next year.
keep talking later.
Yeah,
We should have an episode where we talk about the draft.
the whole lottery system. I heard they've changed it now, and it's not. It's
They
literally
have
actually a lottery now.
big fan. Like they've significantly decreased the odds of winning from last place.
Right.
And that starts this year, I think. Which is great because there are a lot of teams that just tank because they think they're going to get better
Right.
and they just don't.
I can't
But I
think of.
mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I also feel like it helps with parity, like keeping teams
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
Because you can just do what the Oilers are doing and try and grab the first overall pick every single year forever. But
Yeah. It's not great.
certainly not for the people of Edmonton.
Well, it's certainly not for the players. I mean, can you imagine being told or being at least like suggested that it's okay if you lose because we'll get the draft pick?
I'm even looking at some of the Leafs and just some of those people just look broken.
Where do you
Like
have like live pictures of them? Or is it on
no,
the actual?
you see them on like the broadcasts and stuff like that, and they've been unsuccessful for so long, you can just see you can see they've died just a little bit in their eyes. They just have this shell shocked look about them like, I don't what's how is this what's going on? It's like that kind of look.
Yeah. They All right. There's 5 home games left, and I've just been told by the news that they're the rest of the games are 50% off the tickets that are remaining for Leafs home games.
We're trying to restart that streak, are we? They had the longest sellout streak for a long time
Yeah,
too,
I
and
can
it's
imagine.
it's like I don't know what's gonna stop it. I think the one that stopped Montreal or New York's was an outrageous blizzard or something like that once.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah, like people tried to get there, but they just couldn't because they were gonna die. And actually, that was probably New York because I know a lot of Montreal fans that would rather die than miss the game.
yeah. The comment section in this article is hilarious.
Oh, I bet it is.
Most of them saying that they would want money to go.
I don't know if they're playing a good team. Like you could.
That's true. Although then you'd be going to see them lose effectively.
I don't know. I once went to a Senators Lightning game.
Okay.
That was pretty entertaining. It was also the only time I saw a win in Scotiabank Place. Because every single time I went to Scotiabank Place, the Leafs won. Which is just outrageous odds given the years that I
It
was
is.
going.
Yeah. That seems crazy.
Yeah.
Hmm. How do you feel about an abrupt topic shift?
Oh, Rob, when have we ever pretended to have a semblance of flow?
There's no way to flow into this, really. Um, Although we did just talk about Harper the Piroger, maybe we can talk a little bit about when he does get things done. What does he do? How's that? Is that a good enough segue?
Yeah, that's great. That's a good segue, especially now that we're discussing the merits of the segue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ISIS, we're looking to muss them up just a little bit.
Yeah. I wanted to say that I I know how I feel in my heart about us, North America, the sort of Western countries that I'm including some of Europe in. Um, I know how I feel about those countries getting involved in conflict in the Middle East.
I want to point out that I'm pretty sure you just said a boat
That's fine. I'm
in the
Canadian.
most Canadian accent of all time. Good
I
job.
can. I'm allowed. I'm entitled.
Oh yeah, bud. Represent there.
I know how I feel about it, and I don't like it. But as I pointed out to you in our notes, war is complicated,
Wait,
and
sir. What don't you like precisely?
I I don't like historically from all the things that I've read and seen about foreign countries getting involved in politics and religion and issues that they don't know. Things have not traditionally gone very well in those instances, and this just seems like more of that. A lot of the borders in that region, for instance, have been drawn up by people that don't live there,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't seem to be going all that well.
Oh man, like it's just. I think Crash Course actually had a recent episode on Islam.
I don't know how recent it was, but they definitely had one.
It it was pretty good. So like what ISIS is doing is they're trying to establish a caliphate,
Yep.
just like a I don't know, it's just like a religious group that exists beyond borders. So
Yeah.
they're trying to carve out a little theocracy from which they can be ISIS, Islamic State, or
Right.
something. And I really don't know what to think about it because having just watched all of Crash Course, I'm like ISIS. I'll just to clarify, do not think they're great people. Uh, doing a lot of beheadings and whatnot, that kind of stuff. Just and the rape, the murder, that kind of stuff. Not a
Yeah,
big
it's all
fan of
bad.
ISIS.
No.
That being said, like this kind of thing is not entirely without historical precedent. Like a militant group just suddenly banding together and carving out their own piece of land, not an uncommon story in history.
No.
And I mean, the other thing is a lot of times in history, some bigger, powerful nations got bent out of shape about it and tried to fight it and didn't go so well for them. And honestly, I don't even know what we should be doing about it. I also recently read up on, fighting terrorism, and it is not very expensive to pull off a terrorist attack on an industrialized nation. It's just
No.
all you need is something that will explode and a few people who are willing to die.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes to, one, cause a bunch of damage, and two, bait that country into spending billions and billions of
Trillion.
dollars on, I was going to say, if not trillions,
Hmm.
on military conflict.
Yeah.
So, like the States, what have they spent in the Middle East since 9/11?
On the military and national defense.
On fighting in the Middle East, whether directly or indirectly.
I mean, it is in the trillions,
They've
several
spent
trillion
a
dollars.
lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's like it's difficult to draw that line. Do you just say no, we're not going to fight back because it's too expensive, and just inv- theoretically invite people to screw with you, or do you go all out, boots on the ground, like invasion style? Like, and I'll also pause here and say the whole like they're going for an expansion of the ISIS mission.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what Mulcair was calling from day one. He was super worried about mission creep,
Right.
and they're like, no, no, it's just airstrikes. It's just for 6 months. We'll be okay. And by gum, that mission seems to be creeping.
It's creeping more quickly than I think.
Also,
Yeah.
there's some kerfuffle as to whether or not we should be consulting with Assad over military action in Syria because he's apparently a bad dude himself,
Yeah.
and they're looking at negotiating with him specifically as unfavorable. And man, what do you even do?
Yeah.
Like you look back at all the things from the Cold War that like the U.S. interfered, and it went really, really badly for everyone involved. I don't know if you can go full isolationism because I think that might be borderline naive,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
just sticking your thumb in every pie you see is just gonna burn your thumb, I guess is where I'm going with this metaphor.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's
What do you think?
well, the thing that from the conversations that I've had with people, the thing that a lot of people don't seem to either they don't want to really think about, or it leaves their nice box-shaped existence in tatters, is that in some instances with ISIS specifically, they are fighting against other Muslims who just want a different thing, because there are different branches of Muslim, just like there are different branches of Christianity. And historically, those sects have not gotten along in any regards to the religion.
I think
There
it's
were,
it's different branches of Islam, the religion, and Muslims are the practitioners
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
Islam.
yeah.
Okay.
There are Muslims who do not agree on what should be done in the name of religion and what things are going on. So they're
Yeah. As with any religion.
Right, exactly. And so in the case of countries like Iraq, there are the whole issue, or at least one of the big issues, in that the war that the states fought basically in Iraq was with some Iraqis against other Iraqis. It was basically a civil war that was assisted by the U.S. for the supposed good guys, but in that case, I don't think anybody is the good guy. It's just you're fighting a war because this country exists, even though the borders don't really represent any sort of. They don't define any one group of people. They define just it's just an area that someone arbitrarily drew up.
I'm not actually sure on the history.
That like from what I've heard, and I obviously wasn't alive during this time, but the Gaza Strip, one of the most probably the most hotly
Oh, if you're
contested
talking about
land.
like
No, I'm talking about
Israel,
that too, but it's it's the same. Obviously, there's less. Israel's the sort of most on point example of when a committee sat down and drew up a map.
or
But
like Czechoslovakia.
yeah, but that happens in more places than you'd think. Like most of Africa was drawn up that way.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
colonialism.
it still happens a lot in the states with gerrymandering, but it's just for obviously just political reasons more than anything else. Um, you end up with people who are who when you hear okay, Iraq is a country for you. This is your land. When people when other people who don't believe the same things as you also claim it to be their land, there's going to be conflict there. That is inevitable. There's uh, there's just no way in the like never in the history of the world has that been a thing that did not breed conflict.
Mm.
And I just don't see how we can go in fighting because who are we trying to like what's the best case scenario if we go in and help?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's worth thinking about your objective. What are you hoping to get out of this?
Right? Because if you're hoping
Uh,
to stop people being beheaded, obviously that's a very noble goal. But I don't know that this military action will necessarily stop that.
yeah, I mean, as controversial as the practice seems to be, like I would almost be just all for drone strikes. Like, not a whole lot of extensive resource. What do I want to say? Mobilization.
Yeah,
Just if you can find just ISIS troops in the middle of a desert or something like that and take them out and just continue to harass them from afar, by all means.
but that seems far too having experienced now a couple of years working in government. That is, it seems like at least to me far too ideal a situation to actually be what happens. I don't
Yeah.
think you can
Well,
be in a you can be in a cubicle in the States or in Canada, whatever, piloting a drone that's flying over there and like fly over and say, "Oh yeah, there's ISIS. Let's just get them."
oh, yeah, fair
And
enough.
there's nobody. Yeah, like first of all,
I
how
think what we're saying is like Rob being a government worker saying, "Listen, I've met my coworkers. I'm not sure I trust them with drone operation."
right? We have seen a form of like the ideal thing you could do in this type of situation would be to do some kind of surveillance and detail every person's whereabouts in that region, figure out who is good and who is bad, and then design a weapon that specifically can target only the bad people without affecting or harming the good people. And that happened in Captain America 2, The Winter
Wait,
Soldier.
I have not seen it. I'm
Are you
so
going to watch
sorry.
it?
I really want to.
So that was the plot of Captain America 2. Spoiler alert to anybody. I'll not spoil it for Nick. Um,
Do you
but
want me to just take my headphones off and you can like wave to me when you're ready for me to come back?
no, I don't think I don't need to say anything, but people who have seen the movie will know that that is the ideal situation that I'm referring to, and it was not a good thing. The result was bad in that experiment. Even in the best case scenario where you have drones that will take out only the bad guys, that can be that can go very bad because who gets to pick who's bad and who's good.
Fair.
Like I don't think the U.S. government should be the determiner for the world of who's bad and who's good. I
The
don't know that
arbiter of
anyone has that
justice, as it
power.
were.
Yeah, I don't think that that should not be a power that lies with any government. That should not be a power that lies with anybody. Nobody's above corruption. Even by any objective measure, you're not going to be able to determine who is good and who is bad, especially before anything has happened. Like this is a slow process, and it has to be. That's how society, that's how humanity moves forward. It's slow progress, and when we see obvious bad things going on, we try to stop it. But I don't even think, in terms of overall sort of shock value, I think ISIS might be probably the worst group of people on Earth right now. But there are a lot of equally bad people. They're just not doing as shockingly bad things.
I think honestly, the ideal scenario would be if all the surrounding Middle Eastern countries that traditionally don't get along were just like, hey, you know what? These guys are just too much. Can we just get together and like beat the snot out of them? And then like banding together and being happy and sunshine and rainbows. I think that's the ideal situation.
Uh, yeah. So the
What do you have against sunshine and rainbows, Rob?
well, I think that's what happened. And again, if I was alive, I was extremely young, but I think that's what happened when the U.S. did that to Afghanistan back in the first time this happened,
Oh
or
no,
not the
they
first
killed.
time, the first
Wait,
month.
Afghanistan or Iraq?
Both. I think it happened in
Because we've
Afghanistan.
made this mistake before, Rob.
When they no, I know it happened in Afghanistan. Um, where they'll sell, like the U.S. would be involved, but they would just give weapons to the neighboring territories to sort this out, and that was what happened in Afghanistan. The U.S. gave a bunch of munitions to Afghanistan, and then they ended up using it against them later.
I thought it was Bin Laden. They bankrolled. They supported Bin Laden.
Well,
I think.
they may have been. If I'm thinking correctly, they were bankrolling both sides to some degree
Or am I
because
thinking of Hussein? I don't even know.
I think it's all of them. That's the hard part
Yeah.
about
Okay.
this,
Yeah.
is that there are bad people everywhere, and in an industrialized capitalist country, people are going to try to profit off of that. Like there is profit to be made in war. The movie Lord of War is a perfect example of, or a perfect demonstration of how that works. I don't know if you've seen that or if that's another spoiler.
I haven't seen it. I'm
Very
sorry.
good. One of Nicolas Cage's only completely reasonable roles. He was
Do you
very good
think?
in that.
Do you think they? Do you think they have an audiobook version of Lord of War?
An audiobook version of a movie.
Or like if the movie is based off of a book?
It could be.
Where might people find such a book if it exists?
All right, we can do that. So today's episode is brought to you by Audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial by visiting audibletrial.com/unwind. They have over 150,000 titles to choose from, and you can get that for your iPhone, Android, or tablet. That link again is audibletrial.com/unwind. And what I'll do is I doubt they have an audiobook, but we're doing that, and I'll see if it actually is based on a book.
Oh, already.
It is not.
Ah,
It's yeah. It happened fast enough that I don't know that there was time for a book to have been written,
oh, fair enough.
because it was, yeah, these things were happening it came out in 2006, and these things were happening like in the 80s and 90s. There was not enough time. No book.
Alas. So back to ISIS.
Yes,
Yeah, it's complicated.
it is very complicated. And I don't know that they. So that the news here is that there was a poll that suggested that most Canadians agree that we should support this ISIS defeating mission.
I was gonna say, your sentence sounded like it was going that we should support ISIS. I was like, what?
No, no, no.
Not sure if we've been talking to the same people, but
Um, specifically, deploying. Apparently, 74% of Canadians agree with the deployment of fighter jets for use, or in Iraq for use in airstrikes, and 54% support the mission as a whole.
oh, okay. So the mission itself is more contentious than airstrikes.
Right. Although I believe the attack in Ottawa last year was spurred primarily by the fact that Canada was going to be sending jets to Iraq, or had them in the area.
Uh, yeah, that actually came out recently, and totally we could have talked about that. They got the cell phone footage from the guy that did it,
Yeah.
who
Well,
recorded a video
yeah,
right
they
before
had
he
it
did
all
it.
along.
Yeah, but they released it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's basically like textbook radical Islam.
Mhm.
That's basically what it is. Like they recognize key phrases that the radicalized clerics are using,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's about the long and short of it.
Yeah.
Straight up radicalized Islam, and can you believe people are still going there
Still going to Iraq.
to join ISIS? Like people
Oh
are
yeah.
joining ISIS. It's crazy.
Um, yeah. I mean, that in itself is crazy. I can't imagine that, but it,
Although apparently it's ISIS's reading of the Quran. Uh, they believe that they are taking territory so that they can be a part of the final battle between good and evil or something like that.
Mhm.
And there's this one town that's mentioned as a like a battle in the
Okay.
final battle or in the final war of good and evil, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Completely strategically unimportant, but ISIS is absolutely taking it now. So that should evil show up, they can try and fight them.
Hmm.
Although there's a certain irony in that, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard about this. Um, apparently, the set of the place where the planet Tatooine from the Star Wars universe was set in, it was in that area. It's in Tunisia, it says.
Really?
And so they are now using that set. ISIS are on that set and are using it as a sort of
Uh
fortified
huh.
area. And apparently there are like that place gets a lot of tourist traffic for being a movie set, and people are having to be warned to not
Oh
go
man.
there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
I'm imagining now because you never actually get a battle scene on Tatooine.
you see the charred part, I believe. I
Wait,
haven't
that's
seen
not
that movie in a
Tatooine,
very
is
long
it?
time. I think that his the homestead gets destroyed at the end.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking. Sorry, I was thinking of the moons of Endor. Uh, yeah, because we never actually got to see a battle scene on Tatooine in A New Hope.
Right.
And wouldn't it be strange if the first battle scene that ever came out of that set was, an actual real life one?
Yeah, it's very strange.
Hmm.
The apparently the area is actually called. Tatooine. It's just spelled differently.
Oh,
Tataouine.
weird.
Tatooine. Yeah, but that's very depressing. I'm sure. I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm sure that people
How
who
can
are.
you not be a Star Wars fan?
I don't dislike the movies. I've just only seen them once, and I was fine with them.
The original three?
Yeah,
Huh.
I'm okay with them. They're
I,
fine.
you surprise me every day, Rob. Every day I talk to you, there's a surprise.
I'm not. I don't love any really sci-fi. Can you think of an example that I do? I don't think I have one.
I was
I didn't.
about to
I didn't
say
think
Big
so.
Bang Theory. And I was like, nope, not quite, brain, but thanks for trying.
I mean, if I think Marvel is the closest that I would get to sci-fi, but it's not really sci-fi. It's just
Not really sci-fi.
action, superhero.
Fantasy.
Yeah, Superman would be the closest because he's from space.
That he is.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Is there anything we've droned on here for quite some time? Is there anything else you want to say on ISIS?
Uh, just that our episodes seem to start with a lot of laughter, and then we get into the more serious topics as we go on, and
Yeah.
it goes from "ha ha, what a nice time we're having, Rob" to "yes, yes, the matter's very serious. It's a very complicated situation. I haven't the foggiest idea what the solution is."
There might not even be a solution that we can actually go in knowing will be a solution.
So, is there a way to end this on a light note? Is what I'm asking, I suppose.
Yeah, we actually got a couple of topic suggestions from again our valued listeners.
Oh,
Um,
sweet. Did you say listeners plural?
well, I know we have multiple people who listen to the show, but this is the feedback or not feedback, I guess feed forward. We got topic suggestions are more lighthearted and they're from this listener.
Oh, nice.
Um, he wanted to know what summer festivals and or events we're looking forward to as we sort of come out of this deep chill we've been under.
Well, you've been under.
Yeah, you guys have been in and out.
This El Nino winter, the mild winter coupled with the Chinooks, oh my. Like, my bike is now here. I cannot wait to get it assembled.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah.
Is there anything you're looking forward to?
If I can manage it, if I can actually stay here, Stampede, absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Have you been before? You've gone in previous years?
Yeah, I have the Hell or High Water t-shirt
Nice.
from the flood year. It was good.
They just started selling that in cans, the LCBO.
Oh, nice. Strange.
I don't think we're talking about the same thing, but
Um,
using beer.
my internet just froze.
Yeah, you briefly froze for me.
Oh, okay.
Normal.
Perhaps we should take that as a sign.
We
It's
probably
now
should.
past 4 o'clock, so my bandwidth is going to drop like a stone.
Fair enough. Well, I will say that I'm looking forward to Blues Fest in Ottawa
All right.
because it's very good every year.
Perhaps that could be a follow-up for our
Yeah,
next episode.
sounds good.
Awesome.
All right. Well, it's great talking to you as always,
Good talking to you, Rob. Thanks to you, our listeners, for tuning in.
and we'll see you again in a couple weeks.
Or, whenever, because that's how this works.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine.
All right. We'll talk to you later, Rob.
Bye.